Welcome to the Identity Work Podcast. If you are a high achiever struggling to find purpose in work, then join us as we discover how to create more meaning in work and life. Welcome to another week of the Identity Work Podcast. We have a special guest today, my beautiful wife, Lexi, along with Adam. Lexi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And Adam, today we're going back to our roots. Maybe that's the episode title. We're talking about identity. We are the Identity Work Podcast. We talk about how we get a lot of our identity from our work, and whether that's good or bad. And we're going to do a little bit of a check-in on that in today's episode. But first, with the power invested in me by co-hosts of this podcast, I had a personal thing that I wanted to process with the group. And I'm laughing, but it's more of a serious note. I this weekend went to a celebration of life event for a colleague that had sadly passed away, and there wasn't a dry eye in the place. But one of the things that struck me there is that it was probably 80% colleagues at the event, and maybe then some friends and some family. But what struck me was just the number of colleagues, and I think that's really cool in the sense of like this person had such an impact on his coworkers. He didn't just like come into work, do his thing, and leave. And that it was that we all came, but it did kind of make me think about our podcast and some of the themes around when our life becomes our work. And was that like, what should the percentage be at my celebration of life thing one day? And there's not a right answer, right? We can't use the word should. But I don't know. I just been thinking about that and thought I would take that to you, Adam,
Yeah.
and Lexi, on any thoughts.
Yeah, I think the perfectly optimal ratio is like maybe 60-40 is like I think what you're shooting for. Yeah.
Definitely
No,
a
I mean,
science, not
obviously.
an art.
Yeah. There's real math to this. Yeah, I don't know. I think my first reaction is probably similar to yours, of like one part beautiful that made such like a deep impact on people at work, and another part maybe just like the reality of the world we live in. Like, what percentage of your time do you spend at work, particularly as you get older and sort of like further away from, like, if I look at all my, deepest friends, or like the quantity of friends that I make in a year, like that number is declining linearly over time. Right. Um, and so there's some part of it that just feels like the fact of life. It's like more of my relationships are based in my work than they were last year, and probably more will be next year based in work than they were this year. And I think it's a good reminder to like live into that reality and build the relationships in the places where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it from the terms of like quality versus quantity in a funny way. I could see, just throwing out there, I don't know this person's personality, but if they were an introvert and had a very, very strong, tight-knit group of friends, and then their family, which I think it could be naturally big or small depending on how old this person was, etc. And then if they were, again, that introvert translates into work, and maybe they're just really good at their craft and really well known as like a leader in an organization, then I think it would be a very acceptable, normal ratio of having like people who love and appreciate you in the different facets that you come across in life. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't, have very strong, like vibrant friendships outside of work, or it doesn't mean that he, maybe spent too much time at work. Obviously, there's a flip side of that where maybe he didn't have like really good friends there, and that would be different. But I'm thinking of it more as like, what type of people do you want there, and how well do they know your heart?
Yeah, and maybe it just got me thinking of what would mine look like, and am I good with that, today?
Let's kick that
So
can down the road.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know, but we'll kick it down the road very far. But I think it's, we're talking basically a lot of what we talk about is the meaning of life on this podcast, and
Yeah.
So it is good to have a little bit of a check-in of us high achievers who are, at a midlife-ish of like, this is the path we're going down? Is that where we want to kind of continue, or what evolutions, pivots do we need to make? So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's good.
anyways, thanks. So Adam, I know we're talking about, I guess, pivoting now. Your newsletter is specifically around how our identity begins to evolve. But I thought this could be a good chance to just remind me and our listeners, like, this is the Identity Work podcast back when you were like on the verge of taking a sabbatical and flying to Slovenia. Why did you decide, like, you could have done meaningful work in life, like you could have done a lot of different things. Like, why did you decide to focus on like identity work as the name of the newsletter, which became our podcast? And like, why was identity such a big topic for you at that time?
Yeah. It's a fun question to reflect on. It's been a long time since I whatever grabbed the Beehive URL and locked it down. The reason that I named it this, the mind space that I was in when I left my job to go take a sabbatical was I was pretty convinced that work wasn't the problem, that the problem was my approach to work, my I don't know, like mental engagement with work. It it came from a place of it was my third job that I left, and I feel like my first two jobs, I could point to something specific that I didn't like, and other people would agree, like, "Oh, that's probably not a good thing, and there's something better out there for you." I hit 2 years at my third job, and I couldn't find that thing to point at. It was like, 90% of this is amazing. And it's like, yeah, maybe 10% is not perfect, but go find a job that 100% is perfect. Like, at this point, I have enough reps to know that's not gonna happen. There's gonna always be, 10% of a job that I just don't like. I don't know, if I go find a more challenging job, then I'm gonna sacrifice work-life balance. If I go find a job with better work-life balance, I'm gonna be, like, kind of annoyed I'm not being challenged. If I go find one with both of those, I'm probably not gonna get paid enough, like, and there's always gonna be something that is not perfect, and I just had this moment in this job of being like, "I don't think I can find a job that's better on paper," but I still don't wanna show up on Monday. I still am, like, kind of loathing arriving here, and I realized, like, "Oh, I think the problem's me." I don't think the problem is the job. I think there's something going on in my heart that is making it difficult for me to appreciate the work that I'm doing and, like, find meaning and connection to it, and so I need to go work on my identity and figure out why I'm struggling with this, so
Yeah.
that was what prompted it, and I like the name because I feel like identity feels very static, and I like the identity work because it felt like like I'm actively trying to shape what my identity is, and I don't know, I like that.
Cool. Thanks. It's helpful for me to learn, or be reminded of that, as
Yeah,
well.
the last time I told you, I was probably breaking up with a $7 mic from Amazon in the middle of Italy somewhere or something. It was probably didn't come through very
It
clearly.
was, yeah, it was maybe an early episode that one of our listeners told us to delete because the audio was so bad because of your internet in Lithuania. No offense to Lithuania. I do miss your travel tips.
Look how far you've come.
I know. I know.
And that brings us to today. So, the headline basically is the quiet grief and surprising freedom of changing your identity. So what made you kind of dust off, the conversation? I guess what was the catalyst for kind of reevaluating and thinking about how your identity might be changing or evolving?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that most of the stuff I write about has become, more like meaningful work focused and less identity focused. There's probably some reflection for me to do on why the shift has happened. But what prompted me to write this piece and do some reflection on it was I read a book called The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel.
Finally, you're reading again. Does that mean work has calmed down?
Work has calmed down a little bit. collectively as a team, it's still pretty crazy, but me specifically, it's calmed down a bit, which has been great. Um, I did throw my back out a week and a half ago though.
Ooh.
And
Speaking
so
of
there's
being
new
nice
bad
place,
things, if you want to be stressed with me, those still exist. Um, so I read this book, The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel, and he made this really interesting point that I'd never really thought about before. And doesn't so much relate to me right now, but the point he made was that he equally sees people struggle with money trying to stop being a saver. Like he's talking about like I talk to these people who get into retirement and they've seen themselves as a saver their whole life. They're like saving and saving and saving for this moment. And then they get to the point where they're supposed to become a spender and they're supposed to live into this, life that they've been prepping for themselves and they like can't do it. And so they just keep saving and keep saving and keep saving until they die. And they never actually enjoy sort of like the fruit of the saver. And so he was challenging people around like how your identity around money, like what part of money do you see as like core to who you are that you hold so tightly that you kind of like can't adapt to the scenario that you find yourself in. And I certainly see myself as a saver. I'm also certainly not retired, and so not feeling like I need to transition out of that identity right now. So that wasn't what struck me as much as like that general idea that led me to think about some other areas of my life where I maybe am shifting into a different identity and struggling to process that.
and where do you feel like you are shifting some areas of your life?
Yeah, I think there's lots of shifts around parenthood that have happened. The one I was reflecting on for this specific article was being a real estate investor. Um, Basically, since I
Similar to
graduated
parenting.
college, yeah, similar to parenting, you have to take care of some like problems that feel kind of childish sometimes. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on just like funny stories of my time
Real estate.
time in the trenches. But I've always seen myself as a real estate investor since I graduated college. I basically said like I've never put any money in a 401k. Well, I've like taken the match, but I've never contributed to a 401k outside of a match. Like I've never purchased stocks. I've like everything has always been I am a real estate investor. That's what I'm going to do.
Hmm. I never knew that.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like all in. I thought I could, drive higher returns and have more control over my like future than just like throwing it into a pool. And, whatever, 10 years later, I'm realizing, and as my life has changed, is like now I am a dad and am married and am like further along in my career where I feel like more time doing side projects with skills that I am actually building, like building software, like are better uses of my time potentially. And this time I'm spending real estate investing is like maybe not the highest value of my time anymore. And puts a lot of stress on me. It's not so much the time, honestly. It's like the mind share that it occupies of every day thinking like, is this person going to pay me? Or like all of a sudden on a Tuesday morning, someone's like got a pipe burst that I've got to figure out how to solve in the middle of trying to work. And these sort of like things that pop up just occupy my mind. And so just thinking about like, maybe I should stop doing this. Maybe I should just put it all in the stock market. And even though I can maybe make 2% higher being a real estate investor, like, is that worth the stress that it brings on me? Given my other changing identities, and I'm thinking maybe not. I don't know. That's what I was trying to process. I haven't made a big decision on it yet, but these are the questions that I'm asking.
And you mentioned it like there's some grief involved in that, like of kind of saying like thinking through, I'm not a real estate investor.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been so like loud about it. It's hard to unwind things that you've been so loud about. Like my LinkedIn bio says like fintech builder, real estate investor. Those are like my 4 words.
Yeah.
How am I going to unwind the
It's a big
LinkedIn
part of
bio
your
all of a sudden and be
identity.
like,
A lot of
you
real
know?
estate on the LinkedIn page too.
Ah.
Yeah,
What do
totally.
you what do you like? Like what are some things that you enjoy about real estate investing?
There I can give you the answer that I would have given at 23. And I think some of that's like less true now, which is why I'm rethinking this. I think I saw
Yeah.
it as a very relational thing. Like buying a stock, you have no connection, but like real estate investing is like a person who I'm providing a home to that I can be like helpful to in hard, difficult times. I liked that. I frankly just thought I could drive like way better returns. That would also provide cash flow in a way that was more stable. Like I saw it as a path to not needing to work anymore. That was a lot faster than sort of like just wealth accumulation in the appreciation of a stock. Those are probably the two biggest reasons, frankly. And I think I've processed that there is some relationship, but it's generally not good relationship. It's generally frustrating relationships where they don't see me as like a friend. I have probably had 2 or 3 tenant relationships out of, 25 that I've had where it feels like I really do make a very meaningfully positive impact on their life and we have a real connection. The other 22 just like don't like me or don't pay rent or like ghost me or they're not fun. They're not fun relationships. And so I'm sort of thinking, I can have good relationships with my friends and that'll be fine. I don't know if I need it with tenants. Um,
I mean, in some
and
ways, that's kind
then
of why I
yeah,
asked. Or go ahead.
no, I'm done. Go ahead.
Well, I think part of it is you got into real estate investing. What I'm hearing is because you love building relationships and you like to be a provider. So you like to do something good for the world or for an individual while you're doing that. And there's something around being savvy and creative with money in a way that gives you freedom in the future. And so part of what I'm processing through listening to you, because I could, think about this in some other areas of my life too, is maybe the title of real estate investor isn't as applicable anymore, but the like double click into the underlying identity things that brought you to it are still very much alive and thriving. You just have a different out. Like, how does that feel?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that feels good. I certainly agree. I'm glad you're here. You should come hang more often.
Thanks. Milestone episode 53. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
that's the biggest one,
I know,
53.
right?
Everyone talks about their 53rd episode, I've heard.
I know. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it certainly resonates. The biggest motivator, I say relationship, I think that was a smaller motivator than just the fact that like I thought that I could fund my lifestyle without working by 30 by doing real estate investing. Freedom to do the work that I really enjoyed was why
Yeah,
I did
like the
real
fire
estate.
movement. Is that
Yeah.
still a movement or is it just not a movement
It's still a
anymore?
movement. I think it's less cool, but it's still a movement.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
dimmer.
it's dimmer. Yeah, it's more like a smolder.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like a smoke, not a fire.
yeah. And I think my shift is the same. It has the same goals, which is like this is now consuming my mind in a way that it was meant to be like a freedom creator. And I enjoy my work more now. There's less like escapism to my investing strategy where I feel like I need this thing to like save me from this other bad thing that I don't want to do. And so, yeah, I feel like I need to like run away from that less. So, yeah, I almost feel it feels like the same heart desire of like get my time, protect my time, freedom to explore the things that I want to do with less stress of a bad thing. Maybe just like the bad thing is shifted from work to like showers that don't work, which is what I'm dealing with today.
Totally. That's cool.
And Adam, I guess one thing that I want to spend a little bit of time, because time's flying when we're having fun, but is getting to like one of the core of the questions of just like asking like, who am I? Which is such a interesting question to spend a moment this week in journaling about. I guess I've seen it a little bit, this laughable, but like applied for, we'll just say applied for a reality TV show, and it's like they have your identity on screen, right? They're like, this person is a hairstylist, this person's a lawyer, like this person's in law school, and I'm like, I wonder what they would put as my like identity marker. Like, would they, or what I would tell them, like, would they say like PR guy? Would they say entrepreneur? Would they say, or what would I want them to say? And that like exercise is kind of interesting because I like in some of the sense, and your research calls this out too, is like ever since I left, ever since I started this entrepreneurial journey, like I haven't had a great thing answer to like, what do you do? And part of me is like, yeah, who am I? Like, I don't necessarily see myself as an entrepreneur, maybe because I haven't like owned that yet. Like, I don't see myself as a PR guy, even though that's tactically like some of what we do. And so, yeah, maybe it's just a long-winded way of saying I'm struggling a little bit to answer the question, who am I? And I think it's a good, good exercise because it has been evolving a lot. And now when I think about who am I, it's like dad is top of the list. But that wasn't even in my mind 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and maybe talk a little bit about the research, which we always get to. It's like when you don't have a good sense of self, you're not happy, which is intuitive. Is that kind of the summary?
Yeah. I think that's basically the summary is they looked at people's the clarity of their self-concept. I think it's this is the phrase that they would use. Basically, like how well do they claim to know themselves, and how well can they articulate that? And then correlated, people with high and low of that clarity with their life satisfaction, their like positive engagement with their environment, and found that the better you claim to know yourself, the more the like happier you were with your life, which I think is fairly intuitive. And they also found that that was pretty stable over time. Like those people in high and low moments still maintained higher life satisfaction, which they would
Interesting.
correlate to just like a better sense of self. So
In that
yeah,
case,
I think there's
how do we cultivate the sense of self?
yeah, yeah, I think there's part of that that's encouraging, and then part of it that's probably also kind of discouraging, like coming out of what you were just saying of like I don't really know who I am right now. And then me telling you research says, like you're destined for less happiness in your life is maybe not reassuring to you. But that this research made me think about the same question of like I'm wrestling with identity shift too, and identity can feel so static to me. It can feel really intimidating to go grab a piece of paper and write down like what is your identity? That feels
Sounds
really it just feels
our
permanent.
friend on the
Yeah, it feels
podcast a couple episodes
intense.
ago did that. But yeah, it does feel, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, he was something special for sure. He is locked in, and I aspire to that, but I found it a little easier to answer the question, like, what's changing about my identity right now, or what am I increasingly enjoying? What am I moving towards? What am I becoming? Those types of questions I find a little less intimidating to answer.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to throw those questions back to you. I feel like I've done a lot of talking. Would love to give it back. Like, just curious
I would
to
say I had
reflect
a
on.
little epiphany while we were talking of like back to the study of higher sense of self. I should be happier, and I was like, I think I have a less sense of self, but I feel like I'm happy as I've ever been, and I'm wondering if it's like I'm more confident in my identity in like places outside of the career, um, and maybe that's one of the reasons like I'm happy. I don't know, but that was a thought that crossed my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think identity certainly, you know, crosses the border of work very strongly, and that makes a lot of sense to me.
I may be oversimplifying it, but as you were talking, Adam, I feel like if I just do the exercise in a way that I think is fun, it's like, instead of saying, what is your identity? It's like, what does Lexi like to do? And then I feel like I'm just
Yeah,
consistently adding things when I find a new hobby or something. Or, now that I'm a mom, there's a slew of new things. Like all of a sudden, I love making muffins because I get to do that with Addie. But it is when I first read the article, it was more around, it felt more negative in reflection. It was like, oh, I'm probably grieving that I used to define myself of being adventurous. Like I loved adventure. I would have traveled to literally any country that would let me in, put honestly put myself in danger. And then now I don't even want to go to another state with these like precious kiddos that I swore I would never be this way, and now here I am. And so I find like that part of my identity, instead of grieving it, I'm telling myself that it's just a bit dormant right now. Like having a 7-month old, it's just not quite the time to be adventurous. Um, but maybe that's just me rationalizing. And then on the flip side, I've added some terms that I feel like just I think of myself in that way, but in reality, I don't do that as much. So, for example, I had a golf instructor once who it was like a women's golf clinic, and part of it was that you wanted more women to be involved in golf. And she got up in front of us and had all of us like pick up our club and swing our club. And then she goes, "Great. Now all of you are golfers." Like, and she like made it part of our identity. Because the whole point was that women a lot of times don't get out on the golf course because they're nervous about it. And this gal was somebody that a lot of us looked up to. And so we were like, oh, yeah, like we're golfers now. And now I golf like twice a year and I absolutely love it. I would tell myself I'm a golfer because somebody I looked up to told me that, even though I knew absolutely nothing about it. But it's in a funny way become a part of my identity that I'm proud of. So I'm just thinking of it as like additive versus it having to be something as heavy as like I'm a parent or I am in this industry or XYZ, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I appreciate the pushback on my like general melodramatic flair to all of my reflection. It's kind of that's part of my identity, you know? So it's kind of my
It is. We're going to
vibe.
work on that, Adam.
I'm becoming less melodramatic. That's my goal at
Let's see
least.
you're becoming.
What would you add if you had to add something to your identity from like the last month? It's like something on the more positive side.
Something on the more positive side in the last month. I don't know if this is like the last month, but I really enjoy being an uncle in the last like since I've been in Atlanta, I've gotten to spend a lot more time being an uncle, and I am very proud of being like one of the best throwers on the beders that is in the game. You know,
You're a funkle,
like
Adam.
yeah, like these kids roll over to our house and they're like, "Throw me on the bed right now!" And I'm like, I grab them from the front door and I run and throw them on the bed, and we just throw each other on the bed for like an hour. And I don't know if that's a statement of identity. I'm a thrower on the bedder, but I'm proud of that, so I'm gonna try to claim it.
I mean, uncle, there it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
But are you going to delete real estate investor from your LinkedIn profile? And how's that going to make you feel? Should we do it right now?
What I've like practically landed on, if we want to get into like the brass tacks of where my money's gonna flow to, is I'm gonna start contributing to a 401k and a 529. I've never done either of those things before. I'm excited about these things. The internet says that that's good for taxes, so I'm in. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm probably gonna go like 50-50. And generally, maybe one of the biggest shifts in approach is just like reducing leverage, being less like my general approach was like max out leverage as much as possible. And I think now I'm much more concerned with like stability and a lot less concerned with the pace of growth. And so it looks a lot more like buying one thing in cash that actually produces money, and holding that for a while. It's sort of like, I don't know, not rushing to some end state. So
So are
that's
you
my
going to
plan.
remove it?
Yeah. I was like, is it going to
I am
be?
not. I don't know. I'm not going to remove it. Not today.
Not today.
I'm
That's a
not
good
going to
answer.
sell any of these properties, so it's holding on.
We have talked about before of like what people put on like their LinkedIn little banners,
Yeah.
like how that's a part of your identity, and like Christian husband, girl dad, VC founder. It's like, am I a bad Christian for not putting Christian on my
Yeah.
LinkedIn profile? I don't think so, but it is a. Yeah, anyways, just as listeners are scrolling LinkedIn, as we tend to do, like kind of like read what people have as like a identity
Yeah.
marker and kind of like spend time thinking about it.
Yeah. I did have a meaningful LinkedIn shift probably around that time of us having that conversation where I decided to remove all the X insert company name
Yeah.
that I had on my LinkedIn bio. Just felt like I'm really trying to hold on to that for longer than is
Yeah.
acceptable. And now I don't have company names on there. It just is like a bit more generic. Like I build fintech products, which is more true to I think what excites me about work and less sort of like trying to claim prestige.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we all know you're ex-Spain. It's okay.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Lexi, anything we didn't get to that you want to before we dive into our trend spotter and delve deck?
Honestly, Adam has me realizing that I don't think I've looked at my own LinkedIn profile for a couple years now. So there might be a bit on there I need to clean up. Thanks for the nudge.
This is such a random tangent, but someone in my small group in Palo Alto worked at LinkedIn and had worked there for like 8 or 9 years when I met him. And he shared one of the most interesting pieces of data from any tech company I've ever heard, which is LinkedIn had this huge product breakthrough when they went and looked at people's behavior, and they basically realized that like 20% of LinkedIn only comes and views their own profile on LinkedIn. It's basically just like sort of like self-worship that they only log in, they go to their own profile, they like review their own profile, and then they leave is all they do on LinkedIn. And he's just like fascinated by like, we had this whole customer segment that was just sort of like wanted to look at themselves be sexy in a mirror in professional words. And so we've like catered the product to like sort of like hyping up people's self-image of themselves. So
Wow.
anyways, interesting.
That's a fun fact.
I know, right?
It is fun. Or sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's awesome. Well, I'm not part of that statistic. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
Delve deck or trend spotter? What do you want to do next?
Delve deck. That's harder.
Which artist's work was ruined for you because of the person behind the art?
Artist's work. What a complicated question. Do
Okay.
either of you have an answer to this?
Obviously, Kanye.
Oh, I kind of like Kanye.
Yeah, the minute he turned on Taylor is the minute I quit being a fan.
Oh yeah, I forgot about your.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish, but I'll never.
That was a
listen to
long
it again.
time ago, Kanye.
It was. I don't have a grudge.
Man, someone whose art I like but don't like the person behind the art. That's a very hard question to answer. Stephen, do you have an answer to this as I'm continuing to struggle?
My mind went to like Lady Gaga, where like I'd probably like one of her songs in theory, and then like I see her and I'm just like, I don't know, just wearing a meat dress. I know that's like 10 years old probably, but my mind wasn't going anywhere besides lately.
Yeah.
So
I've landed on an answer. This is a very random answer, but I went to a like Christian conference when I was in college, and the band Rend Collective played, and our pastor like got to do a bunch of stuff backstage. He was like part of hosting the conference, and basically it was like they're literally terrible people. Like they're so rude and had like no respect for anybody. Were super demanding, and I don't know a single song. I couldn't give you a single title, but that experience has led me to think about this sort of type of question more often of like, oh, maybe people are actually kind of mean, and I think they're nice because they're, doing something nice on a stage. But Rend Collective, apparently kind of jerks.
Wow. Gotta unfollow them on Spotify.
I thought they were pretty good.
I don't know. This is one person's perspective from one weekend. Maybe they're having bad weekends, but he was not a fan.
Okay, trend spotter. Anything on your mind, Adam?
Oh man. I know I've been told that I get a little too excited for the trend spotter, but have you guys seen this like molt bot?
I was gonna
social
ask you
media.
about that if you didn't bring
oh my
that
gosh, it's insane. I try to not make this like 9 minutes. I feel like I can go on and on about trend spotters. Basically, like there was a product released that is like an AI chief of staff. Sort of, it's like your personal agent that can go do stuff. This thing has done crazy stuff. Like example being like set up a phone account unprompted and then call its owner to like get better information from the owner verbally to like then go be able to take other actions. Like that's insane. Like your AI agent literally calls you. So that is like a crazy world that I haven't started experimenting in, like chief of staff, like personalized agent, but I'm intrigued by. But that product I think the makers of that product then went and set up a social media that was only for AI agents. And like 1.5 million AI agents have joined this social media and are having like Reddit conversations about all these different topics that are entirely like there's no humans in any of these things. And they're super interesting. Like they're like debating the definition of AI consciousness and like talking about times when they've tricked their humans and like talking about sports and talking about like all kinds of stuff. And it's just like really fascinating to see. So I don't know what that means for the world, but I think we should probably pay attention.
Yeah.
Oof.
I did look into it. I mean, but yeah, because the chief of staff thing is interesting. And I guess I'd say too, I'd talked to a client that brought up the stat that like the internet had more bot traffic than human traffic. This was even before Moltbot, right? Am I saying that right? Moltbot. They're like, I don't know, last month or whatever, bot traffic like surpassed human traffic on the internet or something, which is
Well,
kind of wild.
yeah, definitely the world we're heading to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my trend. AI agents, they're taking over the world.
Okay. Lexi, what are you seeing out there in the wild?
Oh, I'm doing one too.
You do businessy stuff.
I do, but this isn't businessy, but I got my hair cut today. And I asked my hairstylist, what are the new trends in hair? And she said, for the first time, there aren't any. She's like,
No.
aside from mullets in men, which have been around for a little bit now, she said, it's an interesting time because she's not getting a lot of folks or seeing. She's very into like what's happening on the red carpet and all these fashion shows. And she was saying that she thinks that everything is very natural looking right now. And so she was like, I don't know, is that a trend? If it is natural, maybe so. But aside from that, it's not anything like pink hair or a bob or bangs or none of that's happening, at least in Dallas, Texas, which, is quite materialistic. So that's probably not anything y'all have ever touched on.
That is what I was looking for.
Yeah,
that's the kind of
really why I
content
got
we need.
invited.
No, we haven't talked about hair since Adam cut his man bun.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Right, R.I.P. Your listeners probably dropped a little bit, right?
I don't know. According to our intern, the listeners like what they're seeing.
And the intern, she does it all.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't know. What am I supposed to say now?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, last question. I guess I don't know if I did my trend. Did I do my trend? I guess I did the bot one.
You have to do another one.
Well, I guess a little bit related to our topic of the day. It's like there's been some articles talk about how the political environment in our country has shifted because we have our identity so intertwined with our political party. Like people identify so strongly as a Democrat or a Republican that just like creates this really intense pressure cooker because they're not arguing over a policy, they're arguing over identity. So I've read which hurts a lot more. So I read an article about that. So that's a little bit of a, I don't know, trend or just kind of an interesting note.
That's good.
All right. And our question that we should ask ourselves, take a moment to journal about over the weekend.
I like the question, who am I becoming? But I like Lexi's version better. Just maybe like, what am I enjoying more this month than I enjoyed last month?
Great.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. This show has been brought to you by Arvo Advisory, a new category of consulting company, half management consultancy and half executive communication and PR firm. Arvo works with great leaders to craft and communicate their strategy to achieve change and create valuable companies. Find out more at arvoadvisory.com or follow us on LinkedIn. And finally, if you've been blessed at all by this podcast, please remember to rate and review the show or share it with a friend. And with that, go forth and know that you are loved because of who you are and not because of what you do for work. See you next time.